Let's get into what critics say.
No, I don't ever feel the responsibility to impress people with my music. I do feel like I got to get in and do my music to the best of my ability, you know. And I feel like I'm my worst critic, you know. If I'm not digging it, it ain't the shit, you know. So the critics out there can basically like kiss my ass straight up.
Yeah, I thought that one is really well suited for you, Nix. I think you need to lead with this.
So,
kiss my ace, like CJ would say, kiss my ace.
So, this is the thing. It's been going on with the theme, what we've been saying, that Dre has no pressure or responsibility to anybody, right? And so he creates for himself and not necessarily for the world. Now, what he puts out to the world, if it fits, cool, right? If it makes sense, cool. But he really creates on a regular basis for himself because of the love of what he does. So he believes, like, until you're in my shoes, until you've created as much as I have, until you've done the accomplishments or even just walked the path that I have, you really can't say anything at all. And I look at that because we deal with a day and age of people who are trolls and people who are just in other people's comments saying whatever they want. But what is your credibility? What is your stats? What have you done that is almost even similar to what I do? If not, sit down. I'm not going to say what he said, but I'm going to say sit down, right? But it is a real life thing in this day and age that people are scared of what others may think. But if you're doing it because you love to do it, if you're doing it because it makes you happy and it's a passion, and you're doing it that this passion happens to make you money, maybe these people who are saying it are broke. Maybe these other people who are saying it just are bored, or have their own insecurities, have their own fears that they know they can't do it, but you're doing it and they just don't understand because they don't see it within their own life. Critics are always going to say whatever it is. If you lead with doing it because you want to, not because you're responsible to, not because you have to, but because you want to, whatever anybody else says, it doesn't matter because it shouldn't steer you left and right from what you want to do. So, and as you get higher in your status, whether you make millions of dollars in your business or whether you get millions of followers, right? You're going to get people who don't like you. You're going to get people who wish they were in your shoes doing the things that you do, right? You have to remember it's not about them. It's really about why you started. And for him, he started because he loved the art. He loved creating. He didn't do it for money. He didn't do it for anything else. What was great from one of the interviews, and I was going to put it, but I didn't. But in one of the interviews, I think in the LL interview, he was talking about the beginning of his career and when he learned how to become a DJ. And the reason why he is in the industry he is in, because he loved the control that it had on people. Like, music allows, like, will shift your whole mood. Like, you could be sad and all of a sudden you hear a song and you feel happy. You know, you can slow down the beat and all of a sudden you're in deep thought. And he loved the control that it had. And that's why he started with as a DJ to become a producer, right? But it's all because of what he loved about that particular industry. Not because of what people were saying about it, not because of how much money it would make. So you have to remember when people are talking, like, unless they do what you do, unless they've achieved what you've achieved, even done the sacrifices, the risks, the dares, and everything like that, unless they do that, they can sit down. Period.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Yeah, because you think about what a critic does to your life. You know, it really robs you of being yourself, right? It takes away the meaning and the flavor of why you do what you do. But to be told, I think without that mindset, Dr. Dre doesn't start beats. You know, he doesn't even get to that opportunity.
Right.
You know, maybe we can touch on it really quickly here, but you know, the whole concept again behind beats, as we talked about from a business standpoint, was to adapt to the marketplace or how changes are happening into how consumers are behaving in the marketplace with the growth of the iPad. Right. That was, or excuse me, I would say the iPod. Right. It was like, you know, music is now being streamed. It's all digital. It was no longer being consumed where people would normally and how they would normally consume it. But at the time, the headphones that came with every electronic was just the cheap ones. It was like Monster and just the whatever ones that came with, you know, the Apple products at the time. And it was almost a status symbol to have the white headphones that represented, oh, you have an Apple product.
Right.
But the quality was terrible. So his critics at the time, Knicks, were all saying, yo, this is a terrible idea. Don't start this. You shouldn't start Beats by Dre, right? It doesn't make sense. They're overpriced. No one is going to want them. You're banking on, you know, the culture or the sneaker industry to kind of help you build this brand, and it's not going to work. And thankfully, he continued to do so. Again, we talked about his collaboration, his partnership with...
I was like, that's a new one. That's good.
Collaborate and partnership. You bring them together, collaboration. You know?
That's what we got with E, collaboration.
We got a collaboration. That's it. I love it. So, you know, he goes on to partner with
Let's
Jimmy
put it on
the
the shirt. Somebody trademark that for us real quick. I'm just saying. You heard it from us first.
Experienced. I love it. But he goes on to form this partnership, and they go on and continue to do it. We talked about it, and I love this was so dope. Just from a production standpoint, when how we do the research, it reiterated and brought up a story that we talked about in the LeBron James episode, when they talked about one of the concepts that really helped the Beats brand elevate and go to new heights was when LeBron gifted a pair of headphones to all of the basketball, I think it was the Olympic team at the time going to Beijing for the Olympics, and everyone seeing them walk in with those headphones, that was an automatic star power that was like, whoa, you know, people now started wanting those headphones. It became a culture symbol. So again, you go back to the start of that. If he entertains and crazy thing is, critics sometimes even often appear as people who are just giving you sound advice. Right? It's like, hey, don't do that. Like, play it safe. Like, that's not a good move. I don't think it's going to work. And it may even appear as sound advice. But in reality, it's a critic, right? It's someone who's pulling you away from what you could possibly achieve. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there, that without that type of mentality, Beats by Dre doesn't exist today.